Special thanks for, of course, for our American attendees, but also for I have written, apparently, this afternoon we had more than 18 different countries with us. So it can be some distributors, some importers, some wine lovers, some journalists from all over the world. And this is so, it's incredible. It's a kind of positive things after the COVID to be able to be all together. This is like this. Before we start, I would like to at first to introduce who is who tonight. So I start with Christophe Chauvel, who is our head winemaker, and he's in charge of all the vineyards of our various estates. I can't say we work together, but we live together for now more than 20 years. Exactly. And we will explain later why our meeting at that time was so important for today. On my right side, we have Mathieu. Mathieu, we live together for now almost 15 years. Mathieu is also an enologist like Christophe. He's also an agronomist engineer. He has been in charge of our estate in Chablis, Domaine Long-Depaquit, during 1 decade. And he came back to Beaune 2 years ago. He's now the assistant of our chief winemaker. Behind the scene, you don't see, but we have, hello, Luca. Luca is our marketing team, the head of marketing team. On his right, we have Christian. Some of you know Christian Sermos, our general manager for commercial and many other things. And behind another scene is our great US team with Jim, Jenna, Robert, Troy, Ryan, Alex, Jen, Isabel. Hello to you. We know you have worked hard to make this event today possible. Thank you also to Luca and all the team for that. So you know now who we are. Myself, I'm Albéric. The goal of the tasting today is at first to explain to you why 2019 vintage is so gorgeous. So our specialist will explain to you what was the weather, what were the sanitary conditions, the maturity, etc. Also, if for those who don't know precisely what is exactly our family winery, we will give you some more details, some more information. Some of you have the samples, some of you have no samples, so sorry for that, but it was not possible to send 400 different tasting set tonight. But if you think, if you are a distributor or importer, if you think it's a good idea for your country, for your customers, of course, we will adapt to your needs, and we will be able to do that in future as soon as you want. So it's not an easy exercise because we don't see you, you see us. So what I propose you is that we will talk together as if we were just three of us. Yes, and we will talk a nice like friends. You are our friends in any case. Very few words about the history. Where are we? We are not in our ballroom, but in our historical room. We have chosen this place because we wanted you to feel a kind of history, but mainly because the internet is doing very well. So we hope technically you see us, you can listen to us clearly. Apparently all the tests are positive. We will see. So almost 2 centuries in our family winery, 6th generation. It's almost impossible for me to sum up 2 centuries in 2 minutes. But I can tell you that since 1831, many things have happened, of course, many changes in the climate, in the soil, in the distribution, in the bottling, in the technology, etc. Most important is what are we today? What is Albéric Bichot? We will discover, of course, Albéric Bichot on the style within the tasting. But to sum up, let's say at first we are a wine grower with today 6 different estates. So instead of having one big winery, for many reasons, many good reasons, we have prepared to keep the identity of each region or sub-region in Burgundy. So if we start with the north, in Chablis, we have the Domaine Long-Depaquit, with a dedicated team, of course. All our wines of Chablis are made in the village of Chablis, of course. Then if we go southward, in la Côte de Nuits, we have the Domaine du Clos Frantin, with great wines, great names like Échezeaux, Grand Échezeaux, Clos Vougeot, and so on. Then in Beaune, in la Côte de Beaune, it's the Domaine du Pavillon. We will have 2 wines of Domaine du Pavillon tonight, so we will give you more details later. Then a little bit southward, it's Mercurey with Domaine Adélie. It's what we call la Côte Chalonnaise. Oh, I just forgot, sorry, in the Côte de Nuits, we have a very specific, iconic chateau estate with Château-Gris, only dedicated on Nuits-Saint wine. On the latest estate we have been able to set up, to build is in Moulin-à-Vent. Moulin-à-Vent in Beaujolais. We will tell you later why Moulin-à-Vent became for us a new iconic wine or iconic terroir. In terms of vinification, what is our style? We will see later. But overall, I take my notes. It's important. If we can talk about philosophy, it's a big word, philosophy. So let's say philosophy with a small p, small f, no, small p. Respect of soil. So the name respect of soil, respect of the vintage, respect of the Pinot, of the Chardonnay, respect of the identity of each single plot, even if it's a very tiny plot. You know, of course, the richness of Burgundy, the treasure of Burgundy is what we have under our feet. This is what the new name, or in fact, the historical name is climate. Climate is really the mix, the blend between the varietal, Pinot or Chardonnay, the soil and the subsoil, the climate, I mean the the weather condition, of course, and also the work of the human work, which has been done during the 2 past millennium. We started to make wine in Burgundy. We started the Romans, let's say, just after Christ. 1,247 different climates in Burgundy have been registered by the UNESCO as a worldwide patrimonium. It's something incredible in the world, for sure. And our duty, our passion is to try to reveal in each wine, in each glass, what is the typicity of the soil, of the combination of everything. Do we have really a style? We will discuss. Yeah. But our wines do not lack of style. Let's say like that?
Yes, we have the style of where it's come from.
Voilà. I think you have, Luca, we have the list of the wine we will taste tonight. I think it's time probably to start with the first one, which is a Bourgogne Aligoté. This is Bourgogne Aligoté from our estate in Côte Chalonnaise, Bourgogne Aligoté, Domaine Adélie. Just to explain that we have our own estate, our own domain, the name I just told you. On the label, it's written at the bottom. If it's Domaine Adélie, it means it comes from Domaine Adélie. If you have nothing printed with Domaine, it means it comes from grapes we have we buy from suppliers of grapes from France, from yes,
other wine growers.
Yes, other wine growers.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So while we are pouring, maybe a few words about the vintage itself, because we cannot skip that. It's another beautiful vintage. So we are very sorry to say it's another one, absolutely beautiful. We had a quite mild winter, so very easy, and bud break came very early. And thus we had a little bit of trouble with, of course, with frost. So the yields have been affected a little bit with the frost in several parts in 2019, especially in the Mâconnais area, but also south of Beaune and a little bit in the Chablis area. But during mid-May, temperatures are very, very nice, and the vine is growing very well. Later on, in beginning of June, flowering time came, but we had a little bit of rain once again during the flowering period. So it's been a little bit of loss again in terms of yield because of the rain during the flowering period. The rest of the year has been absolutely fantastic. It's been absolutely crazy. You remember we were like in summer, even in May and end of June and later on, with very, very hot temperature, much warmer than a classic year. And it could be compared to 2003, if you remember, it was also a warm vintage, as well as 2018. So if you look at the figures, 2019 comes just after 2018 and 2003 in terms of heat, in terms of amount of sunshine. So it's known as a very warm, very warm vintage. Another thing is the lack of water. So generally speaking, there has been a very high lack of water, especially end of June, so May until the harvest, with figures between -30 up to -50% in terms of level of water on the period. So it's
compared to the average decade.
Yeah.
Lack of water.
Huge lack of water. Yeah. So this means it's been quite difficult for globally speaking, for taking care of everything, because it was very dry. But the vineyards did very well with this, and that's where we see that the vineyard is very, very fine with the lack of water, and it's very good news in terms of global warming. It's adapting itself very well, and so there's been a lot of trouble with this lack of water. Maturation has been slowed a little bit, but it has not affected the result. At the end, we had a perfect sanitary aspect. It's been very easy to pick. The fruits were beautiful, very nice maturities. Yes. But the big question was, would it be very, overcooked with the fruit character, too heavy, with a lack of acidity? And you'll see that's absolutely not the case. Yep. White and red, it's absolutely crazy. There's been a bit of concentration with north winds just before the days of picking. So it has concentrated, of course, the sugars, but also the acidity, the freshness, and you see it's ripe. It's beautifully ripe, but with a beautiful freshness and acidity.
It's true that like you said, the sanitary condition was almost perfect. You remember on the sorting table?
Yes. Mine.
Nothing.
The hand behind your back. We have always to select it, even if it's more easier. That's true. That's true.
In this vintage, we have been able to keep some stems.
Yes.
We didn't destem everything.
No. Yes, that's true. But it was a big challenge. As Mathieu explained, it was a warm vintage. I don't want to say it's new, because we have all three, but we have 18, we have 20, we have more and more. So we have to adapt. And in fact, I was very surprised with the 19, I discovered it after the harvest because it was the freshness. I was not so convinced to have that kind of freshness with the level of concentration we have, the hotness we have with the weather, the dryness. So it was a very a very pleasant vintage. And to tell the truth, to my point of view, from nearly 40 years I work in the vineyard, it was the first time I feel obliged when I talk about that vintage to talk about the 18 and the 20. To compare, because we compare, we talk about warmness in that 3 vintage, but the result at the end was completely different because the quantity, because the balance, and as you explained, with to practice and not to distend to have complete branches, it was a big challenge because when you have a lot of concentration, you must be sure that the stem are mature enough. So it was a big job, easy because it was clean, no rot, but a big challenge for the winemaker.
Christophe, as you know, of course, we moved to organic viticulture for now. So we started almost 10 years ago. We've got the certification official Écossaire in 2014. Do you feel that the dryness, the new conditions, the climate condition changing affect this kind of viticulture? Or you feel the vines are more resistant?
Yeah, I think the mainly word is to adapt, to be able to adapt for the wine, the vineyard, etc. Because the climate change and we have a lot of extreme things. So if the plant is in a better condition in the soil with the exchange with the roots, with the soil, etc., which is more able against some disease, etc., it's a good thing. And I think viticulture, organic viticulture, can bring one solution.
Yeah,
that is it.
Bourgogne Aligoté?
Santé.
Aligoté, Aligato? No. But Bourgogne Aligoté, it's Burgundy, of course. It's really the unique exception beside the Chardonnay. So we can find a Bourgogne Aligoté in the biggest part of Burgundy. We can find Bourgogne Aligoté in the north part, very close to Chablis, Irancy. We have some in la Côte de Beaune, in les Hautes-Côtes, in Côte Chalonnaise, and even in le Mâconnais. But this one, this specific wine from Domaine Adélie, it's a very small plot, say less than 1 hectare.
Yeah.
So we produce roughly 4,000, 5,000 bottles of this. It's a Bourgogne Aligoté, we can say, from Mercurey. Yes. The soil of Mercurey.
Yes.
And year after year, we feel more and more interest from the consumer about Aligoté. Let's say 50 years ago, Aligoté was very acidic. It was difficult to get the rightness. Today, everything have changed, and we take care of this vineyard like we do in Meursault or in Corton-Charlemagne. It's exactly the same plantation, same density. For those who have this wine, it's more than a surprise. It's just a big pleasure.
Yeah.
In terms of vinification, it's quite classic, Christophe.
Yes, it is. Well, I have to add that the 19 vintage, especially with this Aligoté, because low yield, in fact, was very concentrated. Perhaps we don't have the habitude to have so much concentration in Aligoté, but it keeps freshness, roundness, and sometimes it's difficult to think it's Aligoté, in fact.
Yeah, it's got this zesty character and very refreshing that we love even in this vintage. So that surprised me. Very nice, I think, to pair with I don't know, fish or as an aperitif. It's really nice in terms of balance.
Well, you're right. It's really the wine for a simple, friendly aperitif, just before the barbecue.
Yeah,
Sitting on the beach.
with snails.
With snails, I don't know, but
Okay.
So I will.
sorry, we have short time, so we have to be energetic. Santenay white.
Yeah.
Here you are.
Yeah, the first bottle. Yeah.
Santenay is more well known for the reds. Santenay for the Chardonnay, it's maximum 15% of the total area.
Less.
10.
Less.
Well, let's say
The neighbor, which is well known, is Chassagne. They have 60% of white and 40% for the red. Santenay is less.
So you know, Santenay is so while you are leaving Beaune, you are going through Beaune, of course, Pommard, Volnay, big names of Meursault, Puligny, Chassagne, and then you end up in Santenay. So it's not a very well-known place, and Santenay is not very well-known, but it's got absolutely fantastic soils. And if you look more closely at the soils, you've got similarities with very nice soils from Côte de Nuits. So you find nice section with red wines that are absolutely beautiful, but also in white, that's the case. You were just next to Chassagne, a wonderful terroir for white wines. And so we produce here a beautiful white wine, and that is something we have to say and repeat, with absolutely beautiful quality at a very good price. So of course it's not a Chassagne, but it's just next to. We do the winemaking in oak, 100%, and treat it as a little bit as a little Chassagne.
Yes,
and so you've got this creaminess, you've got this richness, and for a very affordable price. That's really a wine we promote in red and white as well, as it's also our quest to find very nice places with affordable prices, like for example Savigny or Chorey. And this place is really one of the locations we really like because it offers very good price-quality ratio.
No, you're right. It's really a great alternative to the Grand Village, like Chassagne, Meursault, Puligny, in terms of budget, on pleasure.
Yeah.
So again, it's very fresh. We've got bitter almond. It's all the characteristics of the big names in a very refreshing style. Again, I'm always surprised with 2019. It's amazing.
I think we use the word freshness a lot, especially for the white, because we were surprised with our temperature concentration. But that freshness comes for one part for where the vines are located. And most of them, in general, are on the top of the slope. Okay, you have the effect of the altitude, which is very important.
Yeah. And let's go for the Nuits-Saint-Georges white. Here again, Nuits-Saint-Georges produce mainly Pinot. Only 2% of Nuits-Saint-Georges is planted in Chardonnay.
Yeah.
So don't pour too much.
We need to keep for.
Yeah, especially later. Because we produce, we have a very low yield, especially in 19. And so imagine we produce 5 barrels total. 5
barrels because the plot is so small. It's 0.7 hectares.
Yes, and the yield was very low too. The kind of pruning is very special, as it's an old-fashioned. We practice what we call gobelet, like it was in the past, because it was, you have to see, and you can understand why we practice that pruning. And it's a very small area you have in a windy condition most of the time. That way you can have something which is very precise. I don't want to be so precise for the tasting because you have your own taste, but I gave you my mainly idea of it. And I'm not surprised when we tasted before, but I'm not surprised because in each wine, that's the 19th vintage, you are not surprised when you know where it's come from. because the altitude, because the slope, because many things. And I'm not surprised when you have freshness, when you have precision, etc. When it's come from, for example, Château-Gris.
Yes, it's true that Château-Gris, in terms of altitude, is so unique. Château-Gris, so some Burgundy wine growers, they say it is la côte rôtie of la Côte de Nuit, because we have only terraces. At the base of the slope, we start with Château-Gris red for 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say five different terraces. On the white we have planted is really behind the chateau for those who have already visited.
Yeah,
it's
300 a little bit more than 300 meters high in altitude, and so here's a combination of the Chardonnay with this very little valley, quite well protected, gives a freshness.
We really feel the calcareous mother rock just because the soil is.
Yeah,
It depends. You have
50 centimeters here, 1 meter there.
It could be deep, etc. It's a mix of different soil, but that wine is a mix of different exposition to different soil, and that gives more complexity.
Yes, and I can tell you that in a blind tasting with professionals or with your friends, you put Château-Gris white, so blind. People are here. What this? Of course, it's a Chardonnay. It's from Burgundy, but is it a Charlemagne? Is it a Puligny? No. It's a Château-Gris. That's all.
Okay. And it's got the richness of a Corton, of a Meursault, but also hints of this rocky taste, a wet clay, a kind of minerality that adds something very special to this place. It's really a must-have.
Even salty, the salinity of the wine.
Saltiness.
Your tongue is, let's say, excited. Huh?
Yes.
When we talk about about drinkability,
yes, it is.
Drinkability in Burgundy is when you have a glass, you drink a glass, you want another one. This is the drinkability.
Yes, it is.
And if you want to impress your friends and be proud of what you have in your cellar, that's one bottle you have to get. You have to get, absolutely. So unique.
Let's go for Meursault from our Domaine Pavillon. So the Domaine du Pavillon is really our base, our winery for la Côte de Beaune. Domaine du Pavillon, we produce Volnay, Pommard, Alos Corton, the famous Corton, Grand Cru Clos des Maréchaux, the Monopole, but also some whites, 3 whites, the Charlemagne, Corton Grand Cru, Meursault Premier Cru, les Charmes, and one of my favorite, the, let's say, regular Meursault, so village level Meursault. This Meursault is how many plots?
5 different plots.
5 different plots.
Not plots which are on the slope, no, but in different soil. It's the combination of each different style, and we mix these different plots because they can give, each one can give something to the other. That is very interesting. You forget one other wine, but we'll talk about Clos des Mouches after.
This is a surprise. I forgot the number 4 in the white, the Beaune Clos des Mouches, which we will be tested just after.
Yes. So
you have the style of Meursault, something quite round, but not at all heavy. It's not mellow. It's not the heavy brioche.
Yeah, it's got floral character as well.
Floral, white flowers.
A bit of tension. Of course, it's got some roundness, but not heaviness. So it could be the trouble in this vintage. That's not the case. Also, the oak selection and what we do in the vineyards helps to keep the tension and the freshness of this wine. And I think the result is good for the vintage.
Little hints, touch of pear, a little bit of pear, of plum. And what I like tonight is that we do not feel at all the oak.
No,
in terms of philosophy, we use oak in order that you do not feel the oak. The oak is not here.
It's like you use salt and pepper in cooking. You must fill the salt and the pepper. Okay, it's like spice, etc. So I think the oak is very well married. And a lot of people think about Meursault, there must be a fat wine. You can have some kind of Meursault, could be fat, but it's not the case here. And I think it's more complex to have that style of Meursault. It's my point of view.
It's a pity we are going too fast.
We go too fast, but
I thought we had time to enjoy a little bit more.
we will keep the bottle.
Yeah, we'll keep the bottle. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. So next one is Beaune Premier Cru, Clos des Mouches.
What means Clos des Mouches, Mathieu?
Well,
Why mouche? What is a mouche?
What? Yeah, mouche. So a mouche in French is a bee, is a little bee. So that's where the names of this location comes from. It's just south of Beaune, a beautiful coteau, beautiful slopes just south of Beaune, where there used to be some bees, a lot of bees. Previously, before the vineyard, there used to be a lot of fruit trees, or how do you say?
Yes.
So it was places where people had planted some fruit trees, and so the bees were everywhere eating in the fruits. So now there are no more fruit trees there, and you've got a vineyard, a beautiful vineyard, east exposed, and with white and red wine. So you can find both in this plot.
Here again, Beaune is mainly red wine.
Yeah.
But some specific cru, they can be made with Chardonnay. The best example is Clos des Mouches, but we have three others.
I think it's very, Clos des Mouches is nearly 25 hectares total.
Altogether.
Yes, altogether. We own a little bit less than 1 hectare, but we are on the top of the Clos des Mouches. So it's a place, Clos des Mouches, you can find red and white, but it's a place which is better for me to have white. Just a small anecdote. We talk about Château-Gris, first the Terrasses, and Clos des Mouches. They were planted the same year. We do the same job. They are both in altitude.
Almost same.
Yes, nearly the same. And with the same kind of Chardonnay, because we have different kind, but we use the same kind. And you have two different wines. And I think it's a very good example to see, it's come from here. It must be different because it's come from here. That is, for me, it's a very good example for that. I feel a little bit tannins in it. And I used to have each year under the press. You feel the tannin, even though it's must. It's typical from that wine and also Chardonnay too.
Yes, and when we talk about tannins for Chardonnay, yes, it's really positive.
Exactly. It's not the same idea of the tannin is red, but it fills you a kind of sensation like that.
Yeah, it's got concentration. It's got this tannic, I would say, tannic energy. It's very energetic on the nose, and I really feel like a wave of energy as you.
C'est vibrant.
Yeah, a bit of crispiness as well. So even if it's a big wine, quite rich, it's got this energy. And I think you said, Christophe, it's higher in altitude. I think that's really definitely a place that needs to be planted in white and not red.
Yeah,
beautiful on this vintage. Oh, I like this one.
You have the power, and you have the backbone. The backbone.
I think Mathieu used a word which is perfect for that. Is the word energy. It is. It gives you energy too.
It gives me energy. That is. So we are heading to Chablis, 1.5 hour drive north of Beaune. Chablis, where you've got very specific soils. Of course, it's clay and limestone, but we find inside the soil a lot of very small oysters that we call chimerigians. So chimerigians are fossils that that are coming from the sea. So there used to be the sea 150 million years ago. The sea was in Chablis, and the combination of the Chardonnay on that type of soil in a little cooler area atmosphere. So the climatic conditions are a bit different compared to Côte de Beaune and also from the Mâconnais. It's a bit cooler, especially at night. Gives this very specific character to the Chardonnay. So of course it's yes, lower food, generally speaking. Again, a lot of tension, a lot of energy, a lot of acidity. It's got more,
yes,
more
little touch of austerity.
Austerity, yeah. That's smacking you a little bit like this, and it gives again a real breath of very, very fresh air. It's coming from a Grand Cru level. You know, in Chablis, you've got the Petit Chablis and the Chablis level. As you go up Premier Cru, and at the top of the range, it's Chablis Grand Cru. And this is coming from Blanchots. Blanchots means Blanchots is white. You've got a very white clay there combined with the Kimmeridgian stones. In a very cool, it's one of the coolest climates that you have in Chablis. It's southeast facing, see the sun only at the beginning of the afternoon. So it keeps really the freshness of the Chardonnay there. So very interesting to see how Chardonnay can express in Château-Gris or in Clos des Mouches with totally different expression.
So it comes from our domain, our estate, Domaine Long-Depaquit.
Yeah.
Altogether, it's 62 hectares with 10 hectares of Grand Cru. 10 hectares, it's big and it's very small too. Yeah. But just imagine altogether, the 7 Grand Cru represent 100 hectares of Grand Cru. And we have the chance, the privilege, the honor to possess, to take care 10 hectares.
10% of the entire area
yes.
Under Grand Cru, including La Moutonne.
Including la Moutonne, les Vaudésirs, les Preuses, les Blanchots, les Clos, les Bourreaux et les Preuses.
Yeah.
So,
I think you will appreciate a more colder expression of the Chardonnay, still in a warm vintage. So it's got very nice freshness.
Yes.
Pairs very well again with all the seafood, oysters, everything that's linked with the sea. It's got this saltiness.
In terms of aging, I mean, before bottling, what percentage of barrel aging you have in this one?
It's very limited if you compare to what we do in the white from Côte de Beaune. So it's only 25% oak fermented and aged, and with no new oak. So of course that's something you may find during the tasting, but it's very limited to give place to this saltiness, the crispy character, and the minerality of the Chablis area.
Yeah. I will just add one thing: it's the length. You keep it a long time in your mouth. That's I think all the wine we tasted, the 19 vintage, this wine we can appreciate today, but I expect to see them in 2 years.
In 2 years.
Yeah.
But this is one of our big challenge every year. We try to make wines to be drinkable, affordable in their use, but also which are able to age.
When they come from a special area, which can give
for sure
the opportunity.
Grand Cru.
I think so.
Yeah. We try to be very objective. Huh? We love our wines, sorry, but
that's true.
But
okay. That's it for the Chard.
For the wine.
Yes.
Let's go for I would say for the Pinot. We will not start with the Pinot. We will start with the only gamay we have tonight, Moulin-à-Vent, Domaine de Rochegrès. The history between Beaujolais region and Burgundy comes back to many centuries ago, for sure. Yeah. Moulin-à-Vent is for us one of the best place in Beaujolais, including probably Fleury, Morgon. Altogether, Moulin-à-Vent, it's 700 hectares, but on the top of the hill, you have a small location named La Rochelle, Rochegrès. When we say Roche in French, it means a rock. In the base of the slope of Moulin-à-Vent, you have no rock. But when we go really at the top, the soil is deep, 30 centimeters. It's, comment on dit le grès? It's, sorry, I forgot the name.
The name grey, but it gives you a pink sandy sensation.
Yes.
It's a soil which is completely different than we have in this area. The best soil for me for the gamay. Okay. And very dry soil, that's true. That with the maturity in 19 was very good. And it's a pleasure to have the freshness, fruitness, spicy, the aspect spicy of the gamay, but the ability to be well concentrated. It's not a Beaujolais, Nouveau, etc. It's like a cru. Okay, it's a very.
In terms of vinification, Mathieu, it's really the traditional gamay Beaujolais.
Oh yeah, it's also hints of influences of what we are. This means Burgundy, of course, Burgundy technique. So yes, there is full bunch, but also a combination in certain times of full bunch and distemmed, like we do in the Pinot. So that's a combination of the two techniques with a full bunch to catch the fruit, beautiful fruit from the gamay, but also gain in concentration and structure with the destemming. So that. Yeah, the combination of the two historical techniques between the Beaujolais and Burgundy.
We can use sometime. We can practice pigeage, like we do in the code, but it was
pigeage
more
means punching.
Yeah, punching. Yeah, but it's more soft than with Pinot because the skin of the gamay is completely different from the skin of the Pinot. So we have to adapt. We have to take care.
But it's beautiful, and if you. That's why I think we were convinced of the quality of this wine. It's got really nice similarities with Pinot. Of course, it's not expressing the same way, but it's got this delicacy. So again, it's got beautiful expression, very delicate.
La violette.
Yeah.
Violet,
on the
violet,
flowers.
sorry.
And again, of course, the price-quality ratio is absolutely fantastic for this wine.
And the vineyard itself, the vine, the age of the vine now, after some of them are more than 90 years old.
Yeah, it's more than all of us.
All of us, yes. Combined.
Yes. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yes, it's and it's always a surprise to see a vine gamay. When it's all like that, because it's very thin, and you can. It's the contrary of the Pinot. When you see a Pinot, more it's old, more it's bigger. But with gamay, it's very thin. You are always surprised that vines with 90 years old, so thin, which are able to produce that kind of grapes. That's a mystery of the life.
Let's come back to Pinot.
Yeah, to Pinot, and we're heading to Mercurey. So in our domaine Adélie, where we produce a Premier Cru in red. We also produce a white wine on the village level, and this beautiful white wine, red wine on the village level, called En Milley. So it's coming from a very specific plot at the top of the hill in Mercurey. So as you leave the village of Mercurey, you go up the hill, you'll find the Premier Cru Champ-Martin, where we've got our own Premier Cru, and then you go really at the top of the hill. It's quite well protected, higher in altitude, and again it's got very nice in this warmer vintage because we managed to keep the fruitiness. So a very nice fresh expression of the Pinot there. Mm-hmm. So it's got hints of violet, hints of flowers, white flowers, a bit of fresh fruit as well. It's really on the black currant. So it's really fresh and
the softness of the natural tannins. It's silky.
I will add the aromas of the Pinot.
Yeah. These are small red berries.
Yeah, it's so I think a bit more openly fruity than maybe other wine. Oak treatment also has been slowed a little bit to give place to the fresh fruit, and it's really a nice a nice Pinot in a warm vintage, no heaviness, and really on the fresh side. So I think we stay up the hill, but more on the Beaune area.
No.
Still in altitude.
Yes, in fact, we are not very far away from Clos des Mouches. It's just up Clos des Mouches. It's a special area. I like this area because you have so many stones. You have a lot of quantity of stones together, which we call Meursault in Burgundy. And because the soil is not deep and it's it's a very mineral red wine for me in general.
Yes.
Because altitude on the rock.
It's really on the finesse, on the delicacy.
Yes. It gives you very something which is very precise, very pure, a kind of purity. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, when you go there, it's a lot of blocks of limestone. So of course you see some clay, but it's really the rock is down there just behind your feet, and it gives this extreme delicacy to the wine. Whoa!
In Beaune, we have so many different terroirs, different types. This one is really like you say, altitude, but also in the south part of Beaune. It's not far at all from a Pommard.
Yeah.
500 meters.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think if you expect for that wine to have a wine which is very full-bodied, fat, roundness, it's not the case.
No.
You will be disappointed. But if you want a wine which is very precise, very complex, you have many things to feel one time, another time, and which add together. It's that kind of wine.
And it's
minute after minute, it's changing.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. I think it could be a funny game to have it blind because, of course, it is Pinot, but it's got the delicacy and of almost of a white wine. So it's really beautiful. The texture of this wine is really beautiful. I think nice food pairings maybe with a kind of Asian food or maybe Japanese meals or something like that.
Yes, something a bit spicy.
Yeah, like that. Maybe we can order something.
Hello.
I know Jim is very fond of that wine.
Volnay. Where is Volnay?
Volnay. Sorry.
Yeah, Mathieu, je pense.
Yes.
So
we are.
Yes, Volnay on the map. Where is Volnay?
So Volnay, we are just south of Pommard. And this place is a kind of funny place because, of course, it's south of Pommard on your way to Meursault. And this Volnay Premier Cru Santenots is located inside the Meursault village, so at the limit between Volnay and Meursault. So that's a place where you can also produce some reds or whites. Our plot is of course planted with red.
Yeah. In general, in this area, the white wine most of the time are a bit too much fat.
Yes.
And not so complex like you expect to find in Meursault. But it's a good area to plant Pinot. So
I agree.
Yeah.
And
I prefer Pinot in this area.
Little touch of cinnamon, very mild spices.
Yeah, bit of spice, yeah. And
you can find the delicacies you find in Volnay.
Yes.
Delicacies, yeah. I think.
And so it's a complex area. Of course, it's in between, just next to Meursault, also with influences of Volnay. The soils are quite different. You've got some white soils just next to that's going to produce some Meursault, and here you've got places liking this Santenots where you've got some brown marks, so that are more dedicated for red wines. So I think it's a beautiful choice made there, not to plant the white wine on that type of soil. And so we've got this very aromatic,
Yes.
nice delicacy. It's not as delicate as a Beaune Ermitage, but it's got a beautiful expression too.
Small production too, because
Yes.
the plot is small, huh?
The plot is small.
1/3 of hectare,
Yes,
1 hectare.
exactly. And with the yield of 19, that is smaller than usual, perhaps, than
Four
average.
barrels. 4 barrels
yes.
we done.
Yes,
So 4 barrels, 100 cases of 12. That's it.
that's all. Less one.
Less 1 bottle, yes. Great for la Côte de Beaune. Let's go to.
We have to
Côte
cross
de
the
Nuits.
border and to go to Côte de Nuits. Yes. There is a border in the mine only.
So Domaine du Clos Frantin. So organic, certified, as already said.
Pavillon, yes.
Only dedicated to Domaine du Clos Frantin. Only dedicated to la Côte de Nuits. This Vosne Romanée, Christophe, is a blend of
3 different areas, 3 different plots where we like to combine because they are so different and each gives something different, which is more complex. One part which is located in Basse-Mézières, which is more on heavy soil. One part which is La Damaude, which is just up Les Malconsorts, okay, on the slope, but more on the rock, okay. And last part, which is Damaude, but up on the slope with this soil which is less deep too. And each one gives something very different. Precision, complexity, I think from Damaude, body from the Mézières.
Mm.
So I like the complexity and the mix of them. Yeah.
I remember when we picked the grapes, when you were on the way to choose which grape we keep to distem or not to distem.
Yeah.
Overall, we keep still bunches, 40% of the total?
Nearly, yeah.
40,
Yeah.
almost
Yes.
half.
Yes, when we practice complete bunches, in fact, we never know exactly before the harvest how many.
Mm.
It's the result of the selection on the table which give you the number at the end.
Well, the
Okay.
decision is made on the sorting table.
Exactly,
When we look at the bunch itself.
exactly.
If you have a green hints or not, if it's brown, you see
Yes, it's not like a chewing gum, it's etc. And as people are in charge on the table to select it, and at the end we know. And that is it's what we call a positive selection. Okay.
Very nice.
we can drink it now. You can drink it
Let's do that.
for your grandchildren.
Yeah, it's got another complexity. The combination of fresh fruit, of also a bit of dried fruit. Again, it's got energy. I think the top section of Damaude brings this energy.
Yes.
You bite in the fruit.
Yeah.
Yes. See,
Yeah.
chew,
Yes.
not chewy, but
Yeah.
the fruit explodes. Huh? The cherry, red cherry.
Yes. You feel the pulp of the fruit, the fruit, the aromas of the fruit.
And as we are on Domaine du Clos Frantin, this reminds me Bourgogne Côte d'Or. We were dealing with this just before starting. We had we have a beautiful Bourgogne Côte d'Or. You know, it's a Bourgogne Côte d'Or are very specific plot of the Burgundy level, but inside the Côte d'Or area. And Domaine du Clos Frantin produced some Bourgogne Côte d'Or. We don't have it tonight.
No, that's a great idea.
That's a beautiful wine made really in the Clos, just in front of the chateau in Nuits-Saint.
Yes, because the Domaine du Clos Frantin itself, the winery is in the center of the Nuits-Saint village. And our plot is really in the village. It's not. It has not blessed as a Nuits-Saint or nor Côte de Nuit, but it's just Bourgogne, Côte d'Or. It's quite new for us to launch this wine in the US, also in some of your countries, in Germany, in UK, it's new also. So it's something, value for price, pleasure for price, it's wow.
Yeah, and it's
Yes.
and it's made in Clos Frantin, just next to this beautiful Romanée, but also big names of Échezeaux, Grand Échezeaux.
Yes.
So same winemaker is going to take care of this. Absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
If you've got one bottle, just open one.
When you will come to see us, because we are waiting for you, we will show you especially this vineyard.
Yes, I have a special love for it because it was the first place 22 years ago where we began organic production, because we have to practice organic production step by step to succeed. And we have to begin with one plot. It was here 22 years ago. And the second reason, I planted plenty of Chardonnay. We planted plenty of Chardonnay. Pinot Noir, sorry.
It's better.
Yes, better for the red color. And because that is the philosophy because Pinot Noir is a family, but inside you have many kinds of Pinot Noir. And we used to say, with diversity, you can have richness. That's why in 2 hectares there were many kinds of clone, Massal, etc. And that is the complexity, and it's life. It's like the people you need to have, big, tall, thin, etc. And for Pinot Noir, it's the same. And why? That's why I'm very fond of this area, and I appreciate the wine too.
Just one thing before we test the last wine of the tasting. If you want to ask some question, if you have any comments, you can do it on live
Chat.
on the chat. Yes, Luca will gather all your questions. We will not be able to answer to all questions in 10 or 15 minutes, but in any case, we will try to send you a reply and answer in the next hours, not the next hour, sorry, in the next days, if your question has not been selected because it was too unique or that's it. So do not hesitate to do that. We take the Fixin. Fixin, premier cru, Clos de la Perrière. I don't know if all of you have already heard about Fixin, but for us, let's say it's a kind of it's a new discovery. Fixin was not so well known, etc. But for now, 10, 15 years, because Grand Cru of Chambertin, of Gevrey-Chambertin are expensive, because the Grand Vin of Moret Saint-Denis are expensive, or Chambol. Fixin is kind of rising up, is on the way to show what is the personality of Fixin. In Fixin, you have Fixin village level, and you have 4 different premier crus, 4 clos, and this is one of the 4. Clos de la Perrière, so 5 hectares, so roughly 12 acres. It's a monopoly, only one owner. It's not our property, but we buy the grapes to the producer, and we make the wine. And here again, if you want to play or to be a little bit nasty, put this wine in a Grand Vin de la Côte de Nuit blind. I can tell you, you will have a great surprise, because it's a great wine. In the total area, we can say we have 3 different styles of soil on the subsoil.
Yeah.
And here again, the blend of the 3 parts are very important. In the top of the hill, in just a little bit in the bottom, and north-south, which are really, really different. Rocky, some more sandy soil, and a little bit deeper, because here again we are really on the rock.
In some parts, yeah.
In some part.
Yeah.
And Clos de la Perrière, we enjoy to to have a very old building there. It was a kind of small monastery. Same date, same era than the Abbaye de Cîteaux on the Château du Clos. So you have a lot of history in this wine, but a lot of pleasure.
Yeah. And so it's next to Givry-Chambertin, so it's really, you got similarities in the soil there. So that's really the discovery, or that's a way to enter the Côte de Nuit wines, again at a very affordable price. And again, it's a place that's located up the hill, higher in altitude. It's nearly 300 meters high. So in this vintage, that's another way to keep the freshness. So again, it's really on the fresh fruit, very expressive. It's 100% Pinot, of course. We recognize the Pinot there, but it's got a beautiful freshness, ripeness, and freshness.
This kind of wine and some other, but mainly this wine, if I can say in a very positive way, it's really a wine for a sommelier, because it's rare, it's unique. You can explain to your customer something new. Something new. Yeah. Everybody, or not everybody, but let's say everybody knows Givry-Chambertin, Romanée, but Fixin Premier Cru, Clos de la Perrière, keep in mind.
It's very good.
Lucas, do we have any good question? There is no bad question, only bad answers. But
first question: are any of these wines we are tasting today still in barrel, or have they all been bottled?
Yes, everything is bottled now. All is in bottle.
I have to say that with the 19 vintage, perhaps we bottle earlier than usual. We think that the aging was good enough. We don't have to keep more the fruit of the 19. It was yes, we bottled earlier, 1 or 2 months earlier than the average time.
The very last 2019 vintage we bottled was late February.
Yes, it
late February.
Exactly. For the red and white.
Yes. Yeah.
Both. Yes.
Another question, Lucas.
What role did Milley play in this vintage Chardonnay growing season in terms of preserving an unusual amount of freshness in an otherwise very ripe vintage?
The Milley. Yeah. You just maybe explain what is Milley.
Yes, when the condition during the flowering is not good because too cold, and it was the case in 19 during the flowering, with too wet sometimes. The flowering is not very good, and you have some berries which never grows, which keeps small. You have no seeds inside, and that's true. They are very concentrated, but they concentrate all the sugar and the acidity too. And that's one of the reasons the yield of the white were not very high in 19, because back, yes, we have frost, as Mathieu said at the beginning, and the south of Côte de Beaune, but cold weather during the flowering. So it explains that we have a lot of Mirandage, small berries. But as we said at the beginning, we were surprised to have that kind of concentration because low yield and sometimes Mirand, but to keep freshness, that was surprising.
No, we are not against Milley.
We don't. In fact, we can appreciate Milley a little bit, but not too much because you have not juice inside.
Yeah. Another, yes.
The weather event in Burgundy yesterday. Can you tell more about this event this week?
So we are in a dangerous timing. For now 2 days, we are suffering a lot from frost, spring frost. Last week, we had the temperature like 24 Celsius degree. 2 days ago, -3. Can you imagine? So it's a pity to what happened last night and the night before. We are still in stress for this night, tonight.
Yeah.
It's too early to say how much we have lost. But of course, so we want to be positive and objective and optimistic, but we are really worrying from Chablis to Côte de Nuit, Côte de Beaune. So Champagne has suffered everywhere in France. We cannot say it's a disaster because it's too early. It's especially on the Chardonnay, because the Chardonnay, the
growth of the Chardonnay is in January a little bit earlier than the Pinot Noir.
10 days, 2 weeks.
So
the Chardonnay
so we have damage. But I will say we expect that the biggest frost we have in this area for it was 2016.
16.
And but we have many things we don't understand why we have frost here, not here, etc. So we expect to have that kind of, even if it was very hard.
Yes, but as many friends, many other wine growers during the last night and the night before, at 1 o'clock, from 1 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock, many of us, we were in the vineyards, lighting the candles, but we don't know if it has been efficient.
And we've got also systems to protect, like in Chablis,
yes,
we've got some water spraying, we've got electrical wire. So all the teams are every night outside to take care of the vineyard. So we'll come back to you to tell you what's going on.
But we keep smiling.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not a new thing.
No.
Okay, we can have frost. We talk about warmness, etc. The problem perhaps is that kind of event is more and more.
Yes.
frequent.
Yeah. Luca?
Do you have similar canopy management between the north vineyards and the south?
Very good question.
Yeah.
I would say, I would say yes. So until now, that's some kind of canopy management. We tend to change and try to adapt a little bit as global warming is one thing. We've got more and more sunshine. So locally, we can adapt. You know that from Chablis to south of Côte de Beaune, but also Mercurey, we've got the same densities. So plantings is nearly 10,000 feet per hectare. So in terms of canopy management, it's quite similar.
Yeah.
But what's going to change is what you can do in terms of leaf removal, in terms of hedge cutting. You can do it more or less narrow. So depending on where you are and how do you expect the weather to be. So
yes, and the exposure to sun on the slopes or not on slopes is very important.
So yes, it's globally it's the same, but we are now experiencing more and more also in terms of height, because you need to gain in the use of water, not to use too much water. So when you lower it, so we are doing experiments on this.
Yes, and the highest of the when we cut, more and more people want to have something which is more higher. The problem is the tractors to go here, and because in the past it was nearly not the case, because we talk about the shadow we can have from one row to the other. But with the change of the climate, when we talk about warmness, etc., yes, we have to think about.
To adapt.
That is the word.
Another question.
Any special clones used to deal with climate change?
Not yet.
It's not only a question of clones. It's a question of the kind of Pinot Noir or Chardonnay, okay, but clones are Massal, and the rootstock too. Because never forget the rootstock. It's the relation with the soil is that the first things which can react if you have dryness or wetness. So the important thing is the rootstock. You have not special clones which are adapted for dryness, because dryness is not a good thing for every plant. But you have some clones who can have a behavior which is different. That's true. And that's why we planted many kinds, but not one kind. It's very dangerous to use one or two kinds, because perhaps today it's good, but in 10, never forget, when you plant, it's not for you, it's for your children and next after. So if you make a mistake today, you will pay it
for a long time.
For a long time, exactly.
Okay.
For Fixin and Beaune Pinot Noir, did this undergo whole bunch crushed fruit fermentation or distilled and fermented?
It's a partial.
Beaune.
What proportion of whole bench? Whole bunch?
I try to remember. Really, it was, I think, nearly 20-25%. I think, yes.
On the Fixin,
it was a little bit more.
it was more. C'était 1/3.
I think, yes.
Well,
I have to take
on
my notes.
average,
It's the average. It was, yes, we never practiced even in more than 50% in 19. But as I said, we have to take care. What was interesting in 19, that is, if you compare with 18 and 20, we harvest, the health of the harvest was a little bit later. So for the maturation, it's important to have something which is more at the middle of 1/3 of 2/3 of September than at the beginning of or end of August. And that's why we have very good maturity for the stem that can allow us to keep more than in 20.
yes. Yeah.
But another things, you have to take care of the ratio between the solid part and liquid part, and take care when you practice pigeage, etc. Keep stem or not. It's an important decision.
Lucas?
What kind of barrels did you use for Beaune Ermitage level of toast?
Okay.
It's for most of our wine. It's medium toast. As you've noticed, we are looking for the fruit. We need to give space and allow the terroir to speak. So it's a medium to light toast, and especially on Beaune Ermitage, you've seen it's very delicate, very refined. So it's a maximum of a very light toast.
C'est light toasting, but long burning.
Yeah.
So we prefer long burning than the
Yes.
too high temperature burning.
Yeah. That's right.
Question, Christian?
Non, c'était autre chose.
What are the differences between 2018 red and this vintage?
The main difference for me, as I said, when I talk about the 19, I have to talk about the 18 and the 20. If I have, the main difference was the yield. Okay, we produce more in 18. It's not excessive, but we produce more, sure, in 18 than in 19. So the ratio between solid part and liquid part was different. And that's why we have to take care with the 19 when we practice pigeage, etc. When you press, etc. Yeah, that is for me the biggest difference. But both are very good vintage. To say the truth, at the beginning, I prefer the 18 to the 19 after the harvest. But a few months after, because the aging of the 19 was very, very important things, I say, yes, the 19 is very great vintage too.
Yes.
I prefer the 18 at the beginning, but today I like both. That is my point of view.
But in terms of sanitary condition, it was great too.
Yes,
even in
18
Chablis,
times. Yes, it
everywhere.
was the same.
Very easy as well. Yeah.
Yes.
But it's true that the danger was the quantity. So we have had to be very careful for green harvest if necessary.
It was not.
But it was not, fortunately. The decision to choose the date of the harvest was also very important.
Yeah,
You remember?
that is the same thing we have in 18, 19, 20. The choice of the date of the harvest, it was always important, but it becomes more and more complex. That's why we need to adapt each time, and sometimes one day we don't know where we have to go next day. We need many teams to respect the good time as possible.
Another question. Merci, Lucas.
Monopole labeling on Fixin, if vineyard is not owned by Bichot, what is the legislation?
The legislation for monopole, it means there is only one owner. If you take the example, of course, of la Romanée Conti, la Tâche, la Moutonne, le Clos des Ursulines in Pommard, le Clos des Maréchaux in Corton, and also Fixin, Clos de la Perrière. It's a unique owner, even if we are, two players to make the wine. The owner, he keeps every vintage one half of the total crop, roughly, and we keep exactly the same surface. But this is the monopole, same owner. I understand it can be difficult to understand or tricky, but legislation is really monopole, one owner. One question.
Does the Fixin go through a cold soak?
We don't understand soak, sorry.
Soak.
S-O-A-K.
S-O-A-K.
We will reply by
Another question.
I don't have the dictionary.
Yeah.
Sorry for soak.
A question by Kyojin. Also, where does the luscious quality come from in the Aligoté? The great quality.
Luxurious?
Beaune.
It's luxurious quality. I think
This is really the blend between the soil,
I think
location.
especially for the 19, first the yield. Okay, because in fact we produce nearly 40 hectoliters per hectare. Okay, it's nearly half of the average yield you are allowed for Aligoté. So it gives you a big concentration. That's why I think you can be surprised to find it in that Aligoté. But it's always a mix of a simple wine and complexity and pleasure, and I like it. And I don't put, in fact, I never put cassis in it. No.
I think we wanted to play, to be honest, we wanted to play a little bit with this Aligoté. We've seen the potential in 2019. This is an estate wine for us. It's from Domaine Adélie. And we are, big players on Meursault. We've seen Meursault, Beaune Cru. And we did so, picking dedicated to age a little bit in oak. So it's maybe difficult to feel, but we did something special because we wanted to surprise you with Aligoté, and I think that's the case. So it's got the quality you've seen in it, and it was a kind of game also for us with this very, very specific plot.
Most of the time we don't use oak for Aligoté. It's in stainless steel tank, but one part of the Aligoté we age it in barrels because we know this wine can bear it. Okay.
And when you see where the plot is located,
it's nice.
Really deserve it.
Yes.
Lucas?
Cold soak is macération à froid.
Okay.
Sorry.
We use a lot.
Okay.
We use a lot.
Fixin.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, we use as a classic technical itinerary. We use cold soaking on all the reds, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Maybe what makes a difference in Fixin is the altitude. So that's where the cold soaking brings a lot, and you've got this beautiful black fruit experience and fresh fruit and again flower in the Fixin because it's coming from altitude. But you're right. That was really a year to really play on the cold soaking with a more extended period cold soaking in these vintages. Sorry for very bad English.
Well, my French English too. I will say some people say that practice is a little bit new or from the 80s or in fact not, because never forget that in the past we used to harvest more in October. And the problem was not to have cold temperature, it was to have hot temperature. Warm temperature to help the fermentation to declare. So often we have a cold maceration, but it was natural because the temperature of the grapes were, I remember to harvest in October or what, it was with frozen with the finger. Okay, so it's
another question. What is the aging potential of the Aligoté?
Aging potential of Aligoté.
You mean this Aligoté?
Aye.
This one, yes.
A few years.
It really depends on your sensitivity of what you like.
Yeah.
See.
You can have it right now on the freshness of the very fresh fruit. Yeah. The thing, it has been made in a way in a big white wine style. So we'll discover it. It's got the shape, it's got the structure, it's got the acidity to age a little bit. So we did that. We will keep a little bit to see how it's aging, but it can age.
We'll give you a rendezvous in 10 years.
10 years, something like that.
Just to.
So it's got the shape to go.
Every year we of course we keep some bottles to see the aging in 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
And we believe that Aligoté can do fantastic things, especially in warmer conditions. So that's an example of what we think we could be done in the future.
I will drink it earlier for me.
Okay, specific one.
Sorry for you. So, okay, last question, Luca.
Last question. How have the early April 2019 frosts in the Côte de Beaune affected the Chardonnay yields in regions like Chassagne-Montrachet?
Okay.
Yes, we have frost in 19, especially in south from Côte de Beaune. It was not the same frost that we have today, fortunately, and it was not the same frost we have in 16. So the first thing was to decrease the yield, in fact, because when you have frost, sometimes the flowers, you don't have the flowers or not a lot. And then the second effect was after when you have cold conditions during the flowering. So I will say, sure, 19 vintage was not big yield. If we compare with 18, it's sometimes 30, 40% less. Okay, that kind of frost could be one of the reason, but not the only reason. Because in some other area with no frost, like in Chassagne and some place in Chassagne, we have the same yield. We don't have the frost, for example, in Meursault,
no.
And we have the same yield nearly between Meursault and Chassagne. So I can't say that the frost was so evident.
So, dear friends, my friends, thank you.
Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your passion to wine, your passion to Burgundy.
Yeah.
We hope you appreciated what we tried to do with you tonight. Even it's so frustrating not to be really physically with you. What can I say? We do hope to come and see you as soon as we can. We do hope to welcome you in our cellars and the vineyards as soon as you can. the keys of the door are just just on the right side of the door. So we miss you for sure. We miss you. We need you, and let's hope everything will come back to more normal life. But Burgundy, we are optimistic. So we like optimism. So we wish you all the best. Share your passion, share your bottles, share your life. And this is our unique recommendation. Be happy, stay safe, take care of you and your family. And we say to you, thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.